This is big. Official SpaceX Starship flight recap released. Did you notice this detail? The Air Force wants to test a military Starship. Is Relativity Space becoming the next SpaceX? Has it only taken them a year to develop an entire engine? And buckle up for a crazy story regarding Osiris-REX. My name is Felix, welcome to What About It. Let's dive right in. Starship updates. It's time for yet another much needed update. It's been an exciting few weeks since the launch of the second orbital stack, and the pace is not slowing down. We're already seeing signs of the next Starship launch just around the corner. Today we're focusing on a highly anticipated release from SpaceX, the recap of the second flight. And it certainly was worth the wait. True to SpaceX's style, the video features some stunning shots leading up to the launch and an authentic inside look at the Mission Control Center. It's quite small considering that the people here are responsible for the biggest rocket humanity has ever seen. While some of the footage has been previously shared on X, the video includes some views we've never seen before. For example, there is an impressive infrared shot of the booster's engines. I still can't believe they performed so well during the flight. But here is what everyone was the most excited about: the onboard views. Yes, they do exist. There is a captivating shot from the booster where you can see a grid fin and the Mechazilla lifting point. Another remarkable scene captures the moment just after separation with the ship visible in the background. This is so cool. The video also includes footage of the ship's explosion. While it doesn't provide many details on what exactly went wrong, it's a dramatic shot nonetheless. Once again, the SpaceX media team has outdone themselves. Keep it up. This is also a great moment to not only mention the media team, but also the tens of thousands of SpaceX employees whose efforts made all of this possible. You rock. Be sure to give them some love in the comments. The end of SpaceX's video also sheds light on what we've been speculating. Officially, the next orbital stack is Booster 10 and Ship 28. After months of intensive work, Booster 10 already rolled out from the Megabay. This included the installation of 33 Raptor V2 engines and mounting the hot staging ring. Currently, this prototype is stationed at the Rocket Garden, awaiting the readiness of the launch site. Ship 28, meanwhile, is gearing up for its rollout. The self-propelled modular transporters, or SPMTs, necessary for the move have already entered the high bay. The test campaign for this prototype is expected to follow the standard procedure, starting with a spin prime test to ensure that all Raptor turbopumps are functioning correctly. Next, a few days later, we'll likely see one of our favorite tests, a 6-engine static fire. In my opinion, all Ship 28 testing will likely conclude before the end of the year, leaving it waiting for Booster 10. But then one key question remains: how quickly can SpaceX complete the upgrades to the orbital tank farm to restart testing at the orbital launch table? Thanks to the beautiful shots made possible by Redline Heli, we can see the beehive of activity at the launch site. Crews are currently working on the tank farm's oxygen and methane sides, likely preparing to connect the new tanks recently mounted on their pedestals. A protective wall is also being erected behind these tanks to shield them from debris during launches. However, exactly which tank will store what is still unclear. As we move closer to the launch tower, we encounter the cogs and wheels of the water deflector. Interestingly, a nearby parking lot has recently been dismantled, with workers seen digging channels for what appears to be some piping. Looks like we have another mystery. While a second tank farm would be a fascinating addition, the available space seems too limited for so many tanks. A more plausible explanation could be the construction of a water storage or a pump system. This would potentially eliminate the need for constant water deliveries for the deflector system. Given its close proximity to the existing setup, this seems like a logical step, but what do you think? Dare I say, will we finally see a water tower at Starbase? Share your thoughts in the comments. Want to book your own ride at Starbase and see these things in person, or just enjoy one of the most incredible views in the world? Go to redlineheli.com/Felix. You'll find the link in the description as well. We can't recommend this enough. I promise you won't ever forget this. Shifting focus to the build site, we see lots of work simultaneously in multiple places. At the second megabay, nearly 50% of all the glass panels are already in place. While the bay is still awaiting the necessary hardware for Starship construction, the abundance of spare prototypes means SpaceX isn't in a rush to produce new ones. Over at the Star Factory, we see massive progress with one of the last phases of this building. Foundations are already partially laid and the assembly of the first roof sections has begun. Adjacent to the Star Factory, there's a notable expansion of the residential area for SpaceX employees. Houses are rapidly being constructed, and where a house can't be built, portable barracks are used instead. Soon enough, SpaceX will own a small town, and they're in desperate need of it too. On the opposite side of the base lies the Sanchez site, which also plays a crucial role in SpaceX's operations at Starbase. At the Rocket Garden, now off limits to the public, SpaceX has recently moved Ship 26. With the announcement that Ship 28 will be the next to participate in an orbital mission, the future doesn't look promising for this prototype. It will likely share the same fate as Ship 27, which was dismantled and eventually scrapped. At the back of Sanchez, we see more square areas prepared for concrete filling. This is likely preparation work for assembling and storing segments for a new launch tower, though the exact location for OLID 3 is still shrouded in mystery. Now let's turn our attention to a location we haven't visited in some time, but recently received some fascinating shots of thanks to our photographer John. Let's talk Massey's for a moment. Starting at the beginning of December, the E-Dome test tank was scrapped. This tank featured a new dome design, which SpaceX plans to incorporate into future prototypes. However, after only one cryogenic test, it was cut in half, indicating that the design might still need some polish. Typically, we'd expect a test to destruction if the design was closer to being finished. Next, we have the so-called nose cone jail, designed to simulate maximum aerodynamic pressure, or max-Q. This time, however, instead of a nose cone, test tank S24.2 was placed inside. This tank includes both a new dome design and a payload bay, potentially undergoing tests to evaluate Starship's readiness for Starlink deployment. Though the exact timing is unclear, our pictures indicate that S24.2 was likely tested to failure, as evidenced by a bend near the payload bay door area. Hopefully that was the desired outcome. Lastly, we have the B7.1 test tank. Having undergone cryogenic testing back in 2022, it has remained untouched ever since. Maybe they are sentimental about this one? At the back of the test site, SpaceX has set up what appears to be a concrete mixing facility. They likely need a lot of concrete to stabilize the entire Massey's site. Nearby, next to the previously installed subcoolers, there's now an array of high-pressure tanks and a concrete base. While it is still speculative, the proximity of this base to the subcoolers might suggest that we'll see some form of tanks here, intended for storing propellants like oxygen or methane. This area is undoubtedly one to watch in the coming months. This will be interesting. Who knows, maybe the second tower will end up at Massey's. This would be in support of a catch-only tower. For our last piece of Starship news, we have to go all the way back to 2020. Back then, the US Transportation Command had discussions with SpaceX about the potential of using Starship to deliver up to 100 tons of cargo anywhere in the world in less than an hour. This concept led to the Pentagon's announcement of the Rocket Cargo program in 2021, aimed at exploring such capabilities. And then a year later, SpaceX was awarded $102 million to demonstrate its ability to transport military cargo and humanitarian aid globally using Starship. However, following this announcement, everything went silent, with almost zero updates regarding the program's progress. That silence was recently broken with new information uncovered by the portal KaiserNet. They've revealed that the Rocket Cargo program is currently in a data gathering phase. Apparently, all the data SpaceX is acquiring from the first and subsequent Starship flights is being shared with the Air Force. After gathering enough of this data in 2024, the Air Force plans to use a mock-up of Starship's upper stage in 2025 to test the rapid loading and unloading of cargo. This mock-up is reportedly nearing completion, although no images have been made public yet. The real test of this initiative will come in 2026, when SpaceX will demonstrate its capability to swiftly launch rockets and transport substantial amounts of cargo to and from orbit. A critical aspect of these tests will be ensuring that the cargo, which may not be initially designed for space conditions, can be safely transported. One such example the Air Force gave was, get this, a Humvee. For those interested in more detail, I recommend reading the full article, the link to which can be found in the description. While the idea of a military-oriented Starship might raise some eyebrows, the potential to transport large cargo across the globe in just an hour is definitely intriguing. Furthermore, this program could become a significant revenue stream for SpaceX, attracting interest from DARPA, the Pentagon, and other government agencies keen to utilize the rocket's unique capabilities. This brings us to an important question. Should Starship be employed for military purposes, or should its use be limited to scientific and civilian payloads? What's your take on this? Share your thoughts in the comments. Oh, and hey, while you're here, check if YouTube unsubscribed you without you knowing. That is not a joke. This does frequently happen, so please double check that subscribe button so that you don't miss our updates. And while checking, hit the like button and consider becoming a wise supporter for exclusive SpaceX updates. With it, you get access to daily Starbase photo galleries, now including orbital, aerial, and ground photos of SpaceX's progress, and countless other extras on top. No matter how much you decide to give, everyone gets the same supporter content and access. You decide what you want to give. Check our new website as well. Launch previews, road closures, the latest weather report, and our multi-stream viewer, whataboutit.space. The link to our Patreon page and the new website is in the description. Thanks to all the supporters who help lift our production quality higher and higher. We can't thank you enough. You rock. And now, before we continue with the news, here's a quick word about our sponsor. SpaceX has a broad appeal. If you tuned into our IFT2 livestream, you likely saw this. A moment that gained global coverage with over 300 articles, including private and state-owned sources from Russia, Japan, and more. But I noticed there were a few different narratives depending on the source. I discovered those differences with today's sponsor, Ground News. Developed by a former NASA aerospace engineer, Ground News helps me by summarizing and rating articles like this one by content and bias. Looking closer at the IFT2 coverage, notice how most highlight the explosion as a failure, while some emphasize the successful launch. It is helpful that Ground News shows me where these sources are from and how they influence a story. Join our mission of exploring topics in depth and encouraging informed discussions with Ground News. Visit ground.news/WAI. Subscribe for less than $1 a month, or get 40% off the Vantage plan for unlimited access, which is what I personally use. Supporting them aids in delivering quality content for you. Thanks, Ground News. Next up, we have Relativity Space with some unbelievable news. You may know them for their ambitious goal of revolutionizing the aerospace sector with additive manufacturing, which began with the development of their first rocket, Terran 1, in 2017. While its payload capacity of 1,250 kilograms or 2,700 pounds to low Earth orbit might not seem groundbreaking, their method of achieving this was genuinely innovative. Terran 1 was developed with metal 3D printing at its core. Instead of using traditional sheet metal for the rocket's fuel tanks, Relativity opted to just print the tanks using their Stargate 3D printer. This printer builds the tanks layer by layer using a proprietary aluminum alloy. Impressively, over 90% of Terran 1 was made out of 3D printed parts. This approach significantly reduced manufacturing time, allowed for rapid iteration, and, most crucially, reduced costs. Need to manufacture a tank's dome? Simply change the design file. No need for a new set of jigs or tools. It's a brilliantly efficient concept. After several years of development, Terran 1 reached the launch pad, and in March 2023, it became the first methane-powered US rocket to cross the edge of space. However, the mission did not reach orbit due to the second stage's failure to ignite. Following this, in a surprising turn of events, Relativity announced that they would discontinue Terran 1, shifting their focus entirely to the Terran R. This may seem like a bold move, but with Starship on the horizon, companies have to up their game in order to survive. This new rocket could now be a game changer, a heavy-lift, partially reusable vehicle capable of delivering over 30,000 kilograms or 66,000 pounds to low Earth orbit. With a reusable first stage, Terran R has the potential to compete not only with SpaceX's Falcon 9, but could also challenge Blue Origin's New Glenn. When Relativity Space announced in 2022 that Terran R would be ready for launch by 2026, it seemed like an unachievable target. However, their consistent progress is increasingly suggesting that they might actually be able to pull this off. The main challenge for them right now is developing the ANR engine, 13 of which will power the first stage of Terran R. And the development of this engine has been in full swing. In June, Relativity completed testing of the thrust chamber assembly, the section where the rocket propellant's chemical energy is transformed into kinetic energy. It is a miniature hell. Following that, in July, they conducted cryogenic testing of ANR's turbopumps. Then summer saw static fire tests of the gas generators, a crucial engine component. Finally, September was particularly eventful, with the turbopumps going through spin primes and the first power pack being sent to NASA's Stennis Space Center. Whoa, slow down Felix, what is a power pack? In rocketry terms, a power pack, also referred to as the power head, is the heart and arteries of an engine. It combines gas generators, turbopumps, and plumbing, all crucial for delivering propellants into the combustion chamber. This part underwent successful hot fire testing shortly after it arrived at Stennis, paving the way for a significant milestone, the full engine test. Consequently, the first complete ANR engine was transported to Stennis in early December and mounted on a test stand. So they managed to test all the important components, and now they are ready for a full engine test. This is mind-blowing. We don't know when to expect that static fire, but given Relativity's rapid pace, I wouldn't be surprised if it has already happened. Crazy to think that in just over a year, they went from testing the thrust chamber to being ready to fire the complete engine. Relativity's progress is nothing short of remarkable. Simultaneously, the company works on the necessary infrastructure for printing and testing the rocket components. In October, they introduced the 4th generation of their Stargate printer, dedicating an entire hall to the production of tanks and domes. For testing the rocket's first stage, the company is refurbishing the legendary A2 test stand at Stennis Space Center. This stand has a rich history, having been used to test engines for the Constellation program, the Space Shuttle, and even the Saturn rockets. I cannot wait to see this thing in the air. Relativity Space is one of the few companies that give me hope that we will one day see a true SpaceX competitor, which is crucial for a healthy market. Moving on, we have not one but 2 exciting mission updates. Check this out. In August this year, we closely followed the exciting journey of India's Chandrayaan-3 mission, ISRO's second attempt at a lunar touchdown. This endeavor was met with complete success as the Vikram lander made a smooth landing on the moon, deploying the Pragyan rover for an up to 14-day mission. Together, these vehicles conducted various experiments and measurements on the lunar surface. Well done, ISRO. A significant milestone was achieved in September when the lander executed a hop maneuver, being only the 2nd vehicle to do so on the Silver Globe. Although the mission was designed to last under 2 weeks, ISRO engineers hoped that the lander and rover might reactivate after enduring the 2-week-long lunar night. Unfortunately, during this sunless period, both the lander and the rover's batteries depleted, bringing their mission to a close. Despite this though, it is important to remember that they successfully completed their primary mission objectives in one of the harshest conditions known to humans. And now here is why you're still watching. Chandrayaan-3's mission also included an orbiter. Now what's up with that? Excellent question, get this. After executing orbital maneuvers since October 9th, it triumphantly returned to Earth's orbit on November 22nd, marking another remarkable achievement for ISRO. I am eager to see what they will achieve next. I heard their internal goal is to retrieve moon samples in the next 4 years. Speaking of samples, let's talk about the craziest sample return mission ever, Osiris-REX. Huge fan. This ambitious NASA mission recently brought back rocks from the asteroid Bennu, located about 168 million kilometers or 104 million miles from the Sun. While the sample capsule returned safely, the landing sequence wasn't perfect. The capsule touched down earlier than anticipated, and mission control could not confirm the deployment of the drogue parachute. Drogues are tiny parachutes deployed before the main chute to stabilize the vehicle and slow it down to prevent the main one from tearing up. It's kind of like the feathers on an arrow. In a recent statement, NASA confirmed that the drogue chutes did not deploy, and the reason behind it is pretty bizarre. Turns out that there was a design error in labeling the vehicle's wiring. On the signal side, main was labeled for the main parachute, but on the receiving side, the same label was assigned to the drogue chute. This mix-up led to only the main parachutes deploying. Thankfully, the main chutes could decelerate the capsule, so the samples remained intact. You know the saying, space is hard, but as this incident illustrates, the redundancy built into modern space missions can often save the day even when critical components fail. Kudos to NASA for successfully pulling this off. That's it for today. Remember to smash that like button, subscribe for more awesome content. This is what fuels the algorithm and helps us immensely. Check out our epic shirts in your favorite Space Nerd store. The freshly arrived IFT2 shirt with work from an Italian car designer that is not a joke is the best Christmas gift out there. Link is in the description. And if you want to train your space IQ even further, watch this video next to continue your journey. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again in the next episode. D-Dale. D-Dale. Oh yeah, it's so many D-Dale. No. I don't know. And check it out, Bo.